In an unexpected turn that left Venezuela reeling, Diosdado Cabello, one of the country's most powerful men, launched an explosive accusation against Nicolás Maduro, calling him a weak puppet before a stunned crowd. The scene was a political earthquake that shook the foundations of the regime, leaving those in attendance breathless and the nation in a state of absolute shock. Cabello, known for his fierce rhetoric and iron fist, did not hold back in exposing what he considers the greatest betrayal of the homeland. A leader incapable of bearing the weight of a nation in crisis. The crowd, initially incredulous, was soon caught up in a whirlwind of emotions, from anger to despair. Cabello's words rang out like thunder, unleashing a wave of murmurs and shouts among those present. It was as if the veil covering the government's internal tensions had suddenly been torn away, revealing a conflict that had been brewing in the shadows. This act of public defiance not only exposed the fragility of Maduro's leadership, but also ignited a spark of hope among those yearning for change. Cabello's indictment was a call to action, a rallying cry against the oppression and corruption that have suffocated Venezuela for years. The scene became a symbol of resistance, a reminder that even the most powerful can be challenged. As Cabello's words continued to echo, the crowd began to stir, demanding answers and justice. The tension was palpable, and the atmosphere was charged with a feverish energy that promised not to dissipate anytime soon. In that moment, it became clear that Venezuela was on the verge of a seismic shift, one that could redefine its future forever. In the shadows of Venezuelan power, a fierce battle rages between two political titans, Diosdado Cabello and Nicolás Maduro. What seemed to be an unbreakable alliance has become a battlefield filled with intrigue and betrayal. Cabello, known for his cunning and iron fist, has been moving pieces around on a board that few dare to look closely at. Tensions have been simmering beneath the surface, and now, with his public indictment, the veil has been lifted, revealing a conflict that threatens to destabilize the already fragile balance of power in Venezuela. Behind the closed doors of Miraflores Palace, discussions have become increasingly heated. Cabello, with his influence in the armed forces and his network of loyalists, has been questioning Maduro's decisions, accusing him of being a puppet manipulated by outside forces. The secret meetings, the whispers in the hallways, all point to a struggle for control that has been brewing for months. Distrust has taken deep root, and every move is watched with suspicion. Rumors of treason and conspiracy have begun to filter through, fueling a climate of paranoia and fear. Cabello, with his incendiary rhetoric, has been gathering support among those who see Maduro as a weakened figure, incapable of leading the country in times of crisis. Alliances are being reshaped, and Maduro loyalists find themselves in a precarious position, forced to choose between loyalty to the president or the promise of power offered by Cabello. This confrontation is not just a struggle for power, but a battle for the soul of Venezuela. The implications of this internal war are profound, and the future of the country hangs in the balance. The question on everyone's mind is, who will emerge victorious in this titanic struggle? Will it be Cabello, with his calculated strategy and network of influence, or Maduro, who still holds the title of president but whose authority is being challenged like never before? The answer to this question could change the course of Venezuelan history forever. In an unexpected twist that left everyone speechless, Diosdado Cabello not only launched verbal accusations against Maduro, but backed up his words with leaked documents that shook the foundations of power in Venezuela. These documents, carefully hidden until now, reveal a series of weaknesses and strategic errors that Maduro desperately tried to keep secret. The evidence is overwhelming. Intelligence reports, internal communications, and financial records that paint a devastating picture of a leader who has lost control. The documents show how Maduro, far from being the strong leader he purported to be, has been manipulated and outmaneuvered at every turn. The leaks detail secret meetings where crucial decisions were discussed, revealing a pattern of indecisiveness and reliance on outside advisors. Cabello, with surgical precision, exposed how Maduro has allowed foreign interests to influence national policies, compromising the country's sovereignty. The disclosure of these documents not only calls into question Maduro's ability to govern, but also raises serious questions about his loyalty to the Venezuelan people. The evidence suggests that rather than acting in the best interest of the nation, Maduro has been more concerned with maintaining his position at any cost, even if it means sacrificing the well-being of his people. The impact of these revelations is undeniable. Trust in Maduro's leadership has been severely eroded, and the pressure to hold him accountable is growing ever more intense. Cabello, by bringing these documents to light, has not only challenged Maduro publicly, but has lit a spark of hope among those who yearn for real change in Venezuela. The question now is, How will Maduro respond to these devastating accusations? And what implications will this have for the country's future? In the dark web of Venezuelan power, one question resonates loudly. Who is really pulling Nicolás Maduro's strings? In a country where shadows seem to outweigh light, conspiracy theories are multiplying like mushrooms after rain. Some point the accusatory finger at foreign powers, implying that the Venezuelan leader is nothing more than a puppet in the hands of international interests. There is talk of the influence of countries that, from the shadows, dictate the decisions that Maduro makes, or rather, that he is forced to make. The suspicions are not new, but the recent scandal has fanned the flames of speculation. Maduro's economic decisions, repressive policies, and even public speeches are said to be orchestrated by outside forces seeking to keep Venezuela in a state of submission and chaos. Is Russia, with its historical interest in the region, the puppeteer behind the scenes? Or is China, with its insatiable appetite for natural resources, pulling the strings? The answers are elusive, but the questions are increasingly insistent. Amid this whirlwind of accusations and theories, the Venezuelan people watch with a mix of disbelief and fury. The feeling of being pawns in a global chess game is palpable, and patience is running out. Cabello's revelation has been the catalyst for a collective awakening, a call to action that resonates in every corner of the country. People demand to know the truth, and they will stop at nothing to unmask the true architects of their suffering. Meanwhile, in the corridors of power, the nervousness is palpable. Alliances are shaken, and loyalty becomes a volatile currency. In this power game, no one is safe, and every move is crucial. The question remains in the air, with no clear answer, but with an urgency that cannot be ignored. Who is really pulling Maduro's strings? The answer could change the fate of an entire nation. Chaos broke out the instant Diosdado Cabello launched his explosive accusation against Maduro. The crowd, which until then had been expectant, was plunged into a whirlwind of confusion and bewilderment. Cries of disbelief and murmurs of betrayal filled the air, as attendees tried to process what they had just heard. The tension was palpable, like a string about to break, and the atmosphere became electric with a mix of emotions that overflowed uncontrollably. Some in the crowd began to scream, demanding answers, while others rushed to leave the venue, fearful of the repercussions of such a revelation. The event's security, visibly overwhelmed, tried in vain to maintain order, but the damage had already been done. The news spread like wildfire, fueled by the disbelief and fury of those who felt betrayed by their leaders. Amid the confusion, faces of shock and anger could be seen, reflecting the impact of Cabello's words. It was as if a bomb had exploded in the heart of the nation, leaving behind a trail of uncertainty and distrust. The crowd, previously united in its support or rejection of the regime, now found itself divided, confronted by the harsh reality that had just been exposed. The echo of the accusation resonated in every corner, and the question on everyone's mind was inevitable. What would happen now? The feeling that something monumental was underway was undeniable, and the crowd, still in a state of shock, knew that this was only the beginning of a series of events that would change the course of Venezuelan history. The news spread like wildfire, setting fire to networks and headlines around the world. Diosdado Cabello's accusation against Nicolás Maduro not only shook the foundations of Venezuela, but also sparked a wave of international outrage that had not been seen in years. Leaders from all over the planet raised their voices, condemning the public exposure of the Venezuelan regime's miseries. From European capitals to Asian powers, the clamor was unanimous. Enough of covering up corruption and abuse of power. Governments that had previously maintained a diplomatic stance were now forced to take sides. Embassies issued urgent statements, demanding explanations and demanding concrete actions. Pressure on the Maduro regime increased by the minute, while international organizations debated tougher sanctions and isolation measures. On the streets of Caracas, the news was greeted with a mixture of hope and skepticism. Venezuelans, accustomed to broken promises and repression, watched events unfold with caution. But the global condemnation gave them a spark of hope, a sign that the world had not forgotten their suffering. Meanwhile, in the corridors of power, the regime was desperately trying to control the damage. Emergency meetings followed one another, seeking a strategy to counter the rising tide of international disapproval. But the damage had already been done, and Venezuela's image in the world was crumbling by leaps and bounds. The international community, with its eyes on Caracas, was demanding transparency and justice. The voices of world leaders were loud, making it clear that they would not tolerate any more cover-ups or manipulations. The pressure was palpable, and the Maduro regime was at an unprecedented crossroads, facing not only the wrath of its people, but also the relentless judgment of the entire world. Maduro, caught in the eye of the storm, desperately tries to defend himself from Cabello's devastating accusations. His response, however, is a pathetic spectacle that leaves everyone speechless. Instead of offering a solid defense, Maduro staggers, stammering excuses that do not convince even the most gullible of his followers. The crowd, expecting a forceful response, finds itself with a leader who seems more lost than ever, unable to articulate a coherent defense. The president, visibly nervous, tries to divert attention, blaming external forces and invisible enemies, but his words fall on deaf ears. The lack of substance in his speech is evident, and each word he utters seems to sink him further into the abyss of public disbelief. The audience, who had come hoping to see a strong and determined leader, finds a man who seems to be on the verge of collapse, unable to handle the pressure of the accusations weighing on him. As Maduro struggles to maintain his composure, the damage has already been done. The image of a strong leader crumbles before the eyes of the world, and his attempted defense becomes a pitiful spectacle that only serves to further fuel the flames of scandal. The scene is a brutal reminder of the fragility of his position and how, in a matter of minutes, his authority can be so devastatingly questioned. Maduro's desperation is palpable, and his inability to offer a convincing response leaves everyone wondering how much longer he can hold on to power. The scandal has broken and the entire world is watching. The international press has not wasted a second and pounced on this political bombshell that has rocked Venezuela. The headlines are abuzz with accusations, theories, and speculation, each more incendiary than the last. From New York to Tokyo, the media is exploiting this story as if it were the greatest discovery of the century. Images of Diosdado Cabello pointing his finger at Maduro have been reproduced ad nauseum, each repetition more dramatic than the last, while analysts fight to offer the most outrageous interpretation. The news networks have not been left behind, with panels of experts taking turns to dissect every word, every gesture, every pause in Cabello's speech. The narrative is clear. The regime is faltering and the world is ready to watch it crumble. Journalists, in an almost jubilant tone, do not skimp on adjectives to describe Maduro's weakness and Cabello's audacity. Social media is boiling with comments, memes, and viral videos that fuel the fire of controversy. Amidst this media whirlwind, conspiracy theories are blooming like mushrooms after the rain. Who is really behind this showdown? Is Cabello a hero or a villain in this story? The media has no qualms about speculating, launching hypotheses that range from the plausible to the absolutely far-fetched. Each new piece of information is presented as a shocking revelation, designed to keep the audience on the edge of their seats. The coverage is relentless, and the message is clear. The world is watching, and there is no place to hide. The pressure on the Venezuelan regime is immense, and each new headline is a reminder that time is running out. The narrative is relentless, and the public, both inside and outside Venezuela, is demanding answers. The story is far from over, and the media is determined to squeeze every drop of drama out of this explosive situation. Amid a whirlwind of revelations that have shaken Venezuela to its foundations, the people are finally raising their voices. Outrage and weariness are palpable in every corner, in every conversation, in every look from those who have endured years of oppression and disillusionment. Venezuelans, tired of being mere spectators in the theater of corruption and power, are now demanding strong answers and action. The streets, once silent under the weight of repression, now echo with the cries of thousands demanding justice. Enough is the cry heard from Caracas to the most remote corners of the country. The people, armed with the truth that has come to light, refuse to continue being complicit in a system that has betrayed them time and again. In the squares, on social media, in every corner where people can raise their voices, citizens express their repudiation of those who have played with their lives and their future. There is no room for fear when the truth becomes the most powerful weapon. Leaders, once untouchable, now face the implacable judgment of a people who have awakened from their lethargy. The pressure is palpable, and the message is clear. There will be no peace until justice is done. Venezuelans, with iron determination, are determined not to be fooled again. The truth has been revealed, and with it, the hope for real and lasting change. History is being written at this very moment, and the people are the undisputed protagonists of this crucial chapter. The Venezuelan opposition, always on the lookout for any weakness of the regime, has found in this scandal a golden opportunity to advance its agenda. With Diosdado Cabello's accusation against Nicolás Maduro still ringing in everyone's ears, Political rivals have wasted no time in capitalizing on the chaos that has been unleashed. In a country where desperation and discontent simmer beneath the surface, opposition leaders have intensified their efforts to gain ground, taking advantage of the confusion and disorder that now reign in the ranks of the ruling party. Opposition parties, which for years have struggled to make themselves heard in a hostile political environment, now see the cracks in the regime widening. They have launched an unprecedented media offensive, using every available platform to amplify the scandal and expose the government's weaknesses. In fiery speeches and explosive interviews, opposition leaders have painted a picture of a faltering government, unable to maintain control and respond to the needs of the people. The strategy is clear: keep up the pressure on Maduro and his inner circle, while presenting the opposition as the only viable alternative for real change. On the streets, demonstrations have taken on new life, with citizens demanding justice and a better future. The opposition has been able to channel this discontent, organizing marches and rallies that seek to maintain the momentum and demonstrate that the people are ready for change. In this climate of uncertainty, rumors about possible alliances and betrayals within the regime only feed the narrative of a government in crisis. The opposition, aware that time is a crucial factor, is moving quickly to consolidate its position and prepare the ground for what could be a historic change in Venezuelan politics. The question everyone is now asking is whether they will be able to maintain this momentum and turn the opportunity into a tangible reality for the country. The scandal that shook Venezuela not only left its leaders reeling, but also unleashed an economic storm that threatens to plunge the country into an even deeper abyss. Diosdado Cabello's accusation against Nicolás Maduro was not just a political blow, it was a time bomb that detonated in the heart of the already fragile Venezuelan economy. The already unstable markets reacted with panic, and the barely holding bolivar began to plummet at an alarming speed. Investors, both domestic and international, fled in panic, fearful of the repercussions of a regime that appears to be crumbling from within. The streets of Caracas were filled with uncertainty and fear. Citizens, already facing rampant inflation and shortages of basic goods, now find themselves in the midst of unprecedented economic chaos. Lines for food and medicine are getting longer, and popular discontent is growing as desperation grips the nation. Trust in the government, already eroded, is rapidly evaporating, leaving a vacuum that threatens to further destabilize the country. International sanctions, which were already suffocating the Venezuelan economy, now feel like an impossible yoke to bear. Maduro's allies, who previously looked the other way, are beginning to question his loyalty, while the regime's enemies see a golden opportunity to step up the pressure. The international community is watching closely, aware that Venezuela's collapse could have repercussions throughout the region. Amidst this chaos, citizens' voices resonate loudly, demanding radical change and a solution to the seemingly endless crisis. Venezuela's stability hangs in the balance, and the country's future is more uncertain than ever. The question on everyone's mind is, can Venezuela survive this political and economic earthquake, or is it destined to fall into an abyss from which it will not be able to emerge? The alliance between Diosdado Cabello and Nicolás Maduro, once seen as an unshakable pillar of power in Venezuela, now seems to be crumbling before the eyes of the world. Cabello's public betrayal, accusing Maduro of being a weak puppet, has not only shaken the foundations of the regime, but has exposed the deep cracks that have been brewing in the shadows. The question on everyone's mind is this the end of their partnership? The relationship between these two titans of Venezuelan politics has always been a delicate balance of power and convenience. However, the recent explosion of accusations has revealed that the trust between them has eroded to a point of no return. Cabello, known for his cunning and ability to maneuver in the turbulent political landscape, seems to have calculated that his future is no longer tied to Maduro's. This rupture is not just a personal blow, but a political earthquake that threatens to further destabilize a country already on the brink of the abyss. Rumors of a possible collapse of their alliance have begun to circulate in earnest, fueled by speculation that Cabello may be seeking to consolidate his own power, perhaps even seeking the presidency. Meanwhile, Maduro, weakened and cornered, faces the possibility of losing one of his most powerful allies, potentially leaving him vulnerable to his internal and external enemies. The dissolution of this alliance could trigger a series of unpredictable events. Cabello loyalists could begin to distance themselves from the Maduro regime, seeking new alliances that would secure them a place in the country's political future. On the other hand, Maduro supporters could see in this betrayal an opportunity to purge those they consider disloyal, further escalating internal struggles. Against this backdrop of uncertainty, the Venezuelan people are watching with a mix of hope and fear. Hope that this breakup could open the door to real, meaningful change, and fear that the resulting instability could plunge the country into even greater chaos. The story of Cabello and Maduro, once a story of shared power, is now shaping up to be an epic battle for control of a country in crisis. Will this be the final chapter of their alliance, or will they find a way to reconcile their differences to face the challenges ahead together? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: Venezuela will never be the same. The stage is set for the final showdown. The tension in Venezuela has reached a boiling point that no one can ignore. Cabello and Maduro, two titans of power, find themselves at a crossroads that will define the future of a nation on the brink of the abyss. Betrayal has been exposed, alliances have crumbled, and now the fate of these tottering leaders hangs in the balance. The question on everyone's lips is, what's next for these cornered leaders? Cabello, with his bold accusation, has lit a spark that threatens to turn into an uncontrollable fire. Maduro, for his part, is floundering in a desperate attempt to maintain his grip on a country crumbling under the weight of corruption and discontent. Uncertainty reigns, and every move is crucial. The Venezuelan people, tired of empty promises and a leadership that has failed to deliver, are watching with a mix of hope and skepticism. The streets are abuzz with rumors and speculation, as people wonder if this will finally be the moment when the change they long for will come. International pressure is mounting, and the eyes of the world are fixed on Venezuela, awaiting the outcome of this political drama. In this climate of chaos and mistrust, the possibility of a direct confrontation between Cabello and Maduro is not just a fantasy. The forces surrounding them are ready to act, and any misstep could trigger unforeseeable consequences. The struggle for power is not over, and the outcome of this battle could redefine the future of Venezuela forever. The nation is on edge, and the world is watching intently. Will this be the final chapter in a saga of betrayal and infighting, or simply the beginning of a new era of uncertainty and conflict? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: Venezuela will never be the same again.